Hi folks, welcome back. This is Lynn with PFM Arts. And for today's Technique Tuesday, I actually decided that I would show you the thing that I'm working on now. It is definitely a work in progress, and this is definitely the first one that I've done. So I was watching Pam at the Paper Outpost, and she used little cut off paper strips to basically make a cover for a journal. So what I've done is I started with a base, and you can still see it here. So this is a Chipotle bag, and I just cut it out. And then on this side, I put down strips of paper down here with Mod Podge. Mod Podge, yep, that's how you say it. And I came back over it after it dried, of course. I came back over it with some acrylic paint. And I did not put a second coat of Mod Podge on there because I wanted to see kind of what I was doing with this. So I used, all of this is acrylic paint. So I used a brown color and also a blue color, and then this gold color that you can see in here, I think, when I move this around a little bit. And I think it looks really neat. So the next thing that I did was I came to the inside and I used my scoring board, and I scored, I think this is 1/4 of an inch on the edges. I think that's what I did. Let me get my handy dandy ruler right here. Oh my god, I had to cut off my nails so that we could go climbing the other day, and now I can't pick anything up. It's like the worst day ever. Okay, so this is, nope, I did it at 1/2 inch. Okay, so I scored it all the way around 1/2 inch, and I should have probably paid more attention to the size that I was using, but I didn't. And so then I made it have 1.5 inch spine, I want to say. Let's turn the ruler around in inches. Yep. 1.5 inch spine, so I just scored it down here at 1.5 inch. So I think this is about 5 on this side and 5 on that side. Nope, slight lie. It's about 4.5 on this side and 4.5 on this side. How tall is this thing, just for general reference? So this is at 10 and, well, 7/8, somewhere in there. So 10 and 7/8, and then 4 across. This is 1.5 inches on the spine here. And then I just took some Aleene's Tacky Glue. It's a cheap glue. And I pasted, what are those things? Like the front cover and the back cover to the scrapbook pads. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I cut up. So I thought that was a really good use of that. You could also use a cereal box, but I had this like readily available up here and I didn't have to go downstairs. So I just used this and I cut it up. I cut 3 separate pieces out to size. So front cover, back cover, and then the spine in the middle. And then I just glued it down. And I had this setting on a stack of books. I put in a document protector over just so the glue wouldn't get stuck to my books. And I'll let that sit overnight. So here is where I am thus far. I'll do another video on this, but Pam at the Paper Outpost has another video like this, doing this particular design. So I'll do one at another point in time. All right, so what do I have going on here? All right, so what I noticed was, because I got the acrylic paints on so thick, when I bent this over, because my intent is to do this and then glue it down, that the acrylic split, and you can see it splitting right here. And that's probably because I didn't put any Mod Podge over the top of this before I did all my scoring. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and form the book itself, and then I'm going to come back with some touch-up paint and touch up the areas where you can see the splitting, and then come back over with Mod Podge. All right. So I think this is going to be a little too bulky and weird right here. So I think I'm just going to cut out a tiny, tiny V right here. Like that. And I'm probably going to come back with some Tyvek tape just to kind of put down here in the seams, just so it doesn't get messed up, or wear on it, rather. So this was a project that I actually started over a year ago, and you know, things happened, life happened, and I forgot about it, and I just saw it yesterday when I was having a great time doing some crafting, and I got to a stopping point, and I was like, well, okay, what do I do now? And I was looking around, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that project. And I picked it up yesterday and I was like, all right, well now what do I do? Now that I have this, now what's the next step? So this is what I came up with. I don't know if this is actually going to turn out right. In my mind, it's going to turn out right, but that's, you guys have seen me before. Sometimes that doesn't actually happen. All right, so I got those little chunks cut out, and I'm just going to kind of fold these guys down a little bit. As a matter of fact, that one is a lot. I'm going to come back in with my scissors and just try to trim that up a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'll just take the little pieces and kind of push those guys down a little bit. Okay, I think Tyvek tape at this point is going to be better. I'm just adjusting my cuts over here on the corner. As you can see, I cut out the 90 on the corner. I wasn't terribly concerned about how well this adhered to it, as long as it adhered, so you can see that it's pulling up at the corner. But that'll be okay, because by the time that I fold this down and then put an inside cover on this, it'll be just fine. So I'm just going to come in just a smidge more and cut that out, so this will, yep, lay over nicely just like that. And I'm just going to check the other ones real quick while I'm here. I'm going to take a little bit more off this one, just put it a little bit more on an angle, like that. Like this. And then that'll come in like so. That's good. That'll come up like that. This will come in like this. Take a little smidge bit more off this. So a lot of times when I'm making journals, even though I have the dimensions that I want to use, and the dimensions that I want to use are exact, and I cut them exactly, there's still a little bit of, if you guys remember from math, which this is the method that I hated in math, the guess and check method. So I'm just guessing what's going to be right, and then I am checking it as I'm going through this. As a matter of fact, I might take a little bit out of this corner just to reduce the bulk just a little bit. Probably do the same thing here. This video at this point is probably like watching paint dry. But this is honestly, in my opinion, where the amount of detail that you pay attention to and that you look at, it really counts for the journal. And it really makes it a little bit better. So I don't mind spending a little bit of time on this process to get it right. The other thing that I thought that I might try, especially since I used this gold color on here, is to use these photo corners on this book and just put it on the four corners here and see how it looks like. I've never actually used these before, and these are specific photo corners. So I don't know if they're actually going to fit, but that's kind of my plan. Anyway, I don't know if it will or not, but that's my plan. All right, so I think the next step at this point is just to go ahead and glue this thing down. And I think while I'm gluing it, or while the glue is drying, so this is going to be now a video over 2 days, because now I realized I have to let this glue dry. I'm going to go ahead and cut the paper that's going to go over the top of this, so it'll be on the inside of the cover. And I think I'll go ahead and, do I want an open spine on here? Or no, like this is, I mean, that's fairly thick. It's not really going to go anywhere. I don't think I need to do a hidden spine. Just trying to decide here. I do have some leather-like cording that I could put through here, and I think that would look nice. Maybe that's what I'll do. And then I'll just use some eyelets on here. Maybe do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch on here just to give it some extra security, since it will be so long. All right, let's see what I end up doing. All right, so let me get my glue and we'll continue on. All right, so I have my glue, and what I'm using is this Fabri-Tac glue. It's also sold as, I forgot what the other name is. Whatever. But it's a clear silicone glue, and this thing holds, it grabs really, really fast, and it dries quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and use this glue. But what I've done is I've put it in a piping bottle. This is a Sweet Sugar Belle piping bottle, and I have a very, very small tip on the end. And I have labeled it as such, Fabrifix. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I can control the flow of glue a little bit better, and it makes it a little bit more precise. So I'm just going to go around the edges that I have here with this and lay down a fairly decent bead of glue. Coming around here and then coming back here. I've been told that if you put a little bit of petroleum jelly on the inside or on the outside of the tip, it'll make the strings a little bit less. So the way I originally did this was I put, when I say I did this, I mean I cut this. I put this in first, and I've got these just regular office binder clips here to kind of hold these down. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm sorry this is a little bit awkward. I'm actually straddling my pole, if you will, for my phone is sitting right here. I'm just going to use this to kind of hold it down just a little bit, because what I also want to do is I want to put a little bit of glue on here on this very edge, just to give it something to grab onto. But in theory, if I'm able to use the paper corners, these guys, sorry, photo corners, it shouldn't make that big of a deal. So I did bring a whole bunch of these because I wasn't sure how many I needed. So I'm going to put this right on this corner. And I think I'm going to put one more in the middle, right here. And I'm going to put one here on the end. Now, once I get this all glued down, I'm going to take these off really quickly. And I'm going to put a document protector over the top of this. You could also use any of the plastics that you get when you buy something. Well, not any of them. A lot of them, as long as they're heavy enough. So basically, when I say I'm going to put a plastic, I'm going to put something so that if the glue runs out, it doesn't stick to the item that I'm using to squish down. And usually I'll use a couple of dictionaries or something like that just to kind of squish the edges down, or squish whatever it is that I'm working on down. I'm just going to come along here. And if I get some out on the edge, it's perfectly fine, because I'm going to cut a piece of paper to go over this, so you're not really going to see it anyway. But I am trying to be neat. So here we go. Let me go ahead and get this on here. I think I'm going to put it closer to here. I'm going to come down here. Get this guy into here. Go ahead up here to this top section. And the Mod Podge is going to take care of all that nonsense that's happening on right there. There we go. I think I'm going to come here in the middle and go ahead and put my middle one down. Like so. And then this corner right here. Okay. Alright. Looking pretty good. Alright, I just need to do this top portion and then the bottom portion. And then we're all done with this. So I have learned, and you guys didn't see me do this on the last one because I completely forgot, but you're going to get more exact glue application if you glue the smaller thing rather than the bigger thing. And also don't obviously glob it up with a whole bunch of glue. So I glued the smaller thing that time. So I'm going to come in with this. Am I one short? Are you serious? That's okay. I'm about to take all these off anyway. Alright. Oh, already glued that, and I definitely just stuck my finger in it. So it goes. So it goes. Okay. So there's that, like that. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm going to quickly turn the camera off, and I am going to place, like I said, a plastic on the top of this, take all these binder clips off, take all the binder clips off, and then put the plastic on. And then just weight this down and let it dry. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so I have my cover weighted down with books, and actually it is right over here. Do you see all those college dictionaries? Where are they? There they are. All the pile of college dictionaries and Webster's Home Reference. Yep, my cover is actually right up underneath there. And oh, since we're right here anyway, here are the Reader's Digest books. They're actually already completed. I'm very excited. The only thing that I have to do is I have to kind of reform the center page, which is where I had it glued down and obviously weighted down with books. So very excited about that. That'll be in my Etsy shop coming up soon. But back to the task at hand. So before I weighted them down, weighted the cover down, I went ahead and took some measurements. So for the inside portion of my cover, I need it to be 4 1/4 by 9 1/2, and I need to have 2 of those for the front cover and the outside cover. So this is some really pretty ivory paper that I have, and I decided I was going to use this. Now this is not hand-dyed paper, it's just regular copy paper, but colored copy paper. And this is the color. This is the paper that I want to use for the inside of the book. I thought it would be really nice. And then maybe when I get done, I will take the signatures up at the top like this, and then just run some gilding paste around the edges. I thought that would look really, really nice. So that's my plan. All right, I'll put that up there. But I thought this brown color, and it does have some errant glitter on it for whatever reason. It must have been in some container that already had glitter in it. That's really weird. It's all right. I'll get that off. Even if I don't, that's okay too. So I thought this would be really pretty. This nice brown color would set this ivory off really nicely. So this is what I'm going to use for my inside cover. I went ahead and got my Fiskars paper trimmer. And y'all, I've had this thing for over a year now. And I just realized something. That there's this little button down here. And if you do this, if you move it over, it actually locks and unlocks the, I don't know what this thing is called, the holder, whatever. So if you push it all the way in, it locks it so it doesn't come apart, which is really good. But I just now figured that out, so I thought I'd share it with you. All right, so 9 1/2 by 4 1/4. So the paper that I'm using is not a heavy cardstock. I would say a mid-weight cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut it at 9 1/2 right here. And here we go with that. And I will use this in another project. Put this over to the side. So this is 9 1/2. So I just need to cut 4 1/2 twice. So 4 1/2 is all the way over here. 4 1/2 twice. And I don't know if this is the exact size I need. I normally cut it to what I think is going to be the exact size or something close to it. And then I come back and I make adjustments. All right. So that's all I need for that. And I think I'm going to go ahead. Whoops. Sorry for knocking that. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can scrounge for some fabric that I can put on the inside of the cover. And I will be right back. All right, so I'm still working on this. And this has only been smushed down for about 10 minutes. It still needs to set and cure a little bit more. But what I thought that I would do, just to cut down on the dry time, is to come on in and put the inside covers on and then come back with the fabric piece over the top. And it looks like I need to cut this just a little bit longer just to kind of cover that up. But let's go ahead and do this. So I didn't tell you before, but this is how I store. I've seen a lot of other people do this, but this actually works out really well for me. So what I've done is I've taken 2 pieces of masking tape like this, and I just keep reusing the same pieces of masking tape like that. So 1 piece of masking tape that goes around it, and then 1 piece of masking tape that goes over it. Yeah, like that. And then I just have a sewing pin on the inside of it. Now, I will say to make sure to, if you want to do this, make sure that the pin that you use doesn't rust, because it will rust on the inside of this. And the reason why I put the masking tape over that, if you guys know, or if you guys remember, I do still work full time. So usually the only time that I really get to craft is on the weekends. And I don't always use my glue. So what that means is if I don't have some method of stopping up the glue, and then it just ends up getting gummed up and dried out, and that is definitely not something that you want. So that's what I do. It seems to work out really well for me. I've seen a lot of other people that either don't do that, or they just put a pin in the top of it and then it's fine. But I found that does not work for me because I do use it, or I don't use it consistently, rather. So I'm just laying down glue on this. Well, I guess this is the back cover. Maybe it's the front cover. I don't know. But I am laying down this glue here, like that. And I paid close attention to get close to the edge, but not lay down such a large bead of glue that it squishes out the edge, because this is definitely not where you want the glue to squish out the edge. Hopefully I did okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is come on in here, and I'm just going to try to split the difference and make it kind of even at the top, the side, and the bottom. Looks like the top and side is pretty good. The bottom is a little off, but it'll be okay. And then I'm just taking my hand and smushing it down here. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to come around with my glue. I'm telling you what, though, this idea of using an icing bottle is amazing. It gives you way more control than just using the nozzle, I suppose you would call it. The nozzle on the bottle that it comes in. I mean, of course you can cut it to the width, speed, whatever, that you want, but you definitely can't get it this small. And another thing about this particular bottle that I really do like for this glue is that it's easier on the hands than the bottle itself. So if you are doing a lot of this, your hand won't get tired as quickly. I mean, it's still going to get tired. I do like the Fabrifix glue because it doesn't really come through all that much. It doesn't bleed through, but at the same time, man, this thing does have an odor. It's very strong. But it is a good glue. It's a good glue for paper. It's a good glue for fabric. All right, this, somehow, the front cover is not the same size as the back cover. So what that means for me is I need to come in quickly with this and just trim off this excess so the cover will bend properly. And I'm just trying to cut through only the cardstock that's on here and not anything that's up underneath here, because that's going to degrade the integrity of my cover. It's very weird it wasn't the same size. But this is all going to get taken care of with Tyvek tape, which I probably should have already put on before I glued these covers on. A little bit more right here, and we're clear. Now the reason why I cut that off is because that's going to stop my cover from opening nicely. All right, that'll get taken care of when I smush it down with a book. What I'm doing now is I'm just kind of going over it with my hand to smooth out the glue and get it to adhere. So let me grab some Tyvek real quick and put it right here on the top. And what I have here is Lowe's Tyvek tape. It's not Tyvek tape. I think the actual thing that it is house wrap tape. Not exactly sure. But honestly, this is about, I have had this tape for quite a while. And I actually bought the actual Tyvek brand tape at the same time that I bought this tape. And I honestly wasn't able to tell much of a difference between the two tapes. So the Tyvek tape is slightly more expensive than the house brand tape, and in my case it's Lowe's. But it doesn't seem to be any difference in performance, at least for this. It may be different if you're trying to, you know, wrap your house, but for my purposes it's not. It's about, I would say probably about $5 cheaper than the name brand. So it's not much, but still, if I was, when I go to buy this tape again, I'm probably just gonna buy the store brand instead of the name brand, because like I said, I can't tell any noticeable difference with it anyway. So what I've done is I haven't really said what I'm doing, but I'm overlapping it about 1/4 of an inch on to the other side, so the cover. And I'm trying to get it so that it's not too long. Man, this stuff is sticky. It's like the stickiest tape. All right, here we go. All right, I'm just going to try to line up the top portion, and then I can cut off the bottom as needed. Okay, so here's the top portion. I'm going to use my scissors to come in here. Okay, that's pretty good. And I know what you're saying. You're saying there's stuff left over at the end. I know. I'm just going to come in with this little piece that I cut off, and I'm going to put this guy, I think, right about here. And the only reason that I'm using this Tyvek tape house wrap, because it's obviously not Tyvek, is just to give it a little bit more reinforcement. That's all. That's all that I'm using this for. And that's because the edges on the spine are really only held on by the cover itself. And then of course the cover, there's a whole bunch of paper on the cover and Mod Podge, and I'm going to go over it again, but I'm just doing this to reinforce it and just give it a little bit more strength. All right, so this weird looking piece I'm going to put in here. Right about here, and I'm not terribly concerned about it being longer than this part anyway, because I'm going to come over, I'm going to put a piece of fabric on the top, so you're not even going to see that. And I am going to use, because I don't, is that my bone folder right there? Ha, all right. Well, I was going to use this, and you already saw me use this because I didn't have my bone folder at the ready, but here's my bone folder. And I'm just going to kind of press down this crease between the front cover and the back cover and the spine, just to have that adhere a little bit better. Okay, so there we are. That's pretty good. All of this will be fixed by some little bit of touch-up and some Mod Podge. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and off camera, I'm going to recut this fabric piece that isn't quite long enough, although actually this is cotton. I could probably stretch it. Let's see. That'll work. That's the fun thing about using cotton, is that it stretches just a little bit, so if you cut it just a little bit wrong, you're still okay. All right, well, never mind. I'm not going to cut that off screen. I will go ahead and just glue this guy down right now. So coming in with my Fabrifix glue still. It's also put out as, I think, 3-in-1, something like that. But this glue not only given a good hold to paper, it also gives a good hold with fabric. And when you're putting fabric on paper, which is what I am doing right now, this is actually a really good glue to use. So I'm coming on here and I'm paying attention to where I put the house wrap tape and making sure that I glue that section down really well. And then I'll come in and fill in this middle section right here and here. Now, the piece of material that I used, I shouldn't have to worry about bleed through too much, but it might. And if you are terribly concerned about bleed through, then what you can do is you can take your finger and come over the top of this glue and just kind of blend it down a little bit so that where the glue is and where the glue isn't will be a little bit less noticeable. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna put this guy on here just like this, bring this down, smush this over, and all I'm trying to do right now is make sure that this fabric piece covers up all of the Tyvek tape, house wrap tape, and I'm just going to smooth it down with my hands. Try to bring this down to the edge like that. And you can see a little bit in here where it says the brand name on here. But honestly, by the time that you get the paper in here, you get the signature sewn in, it's not going to be that noticeable. Now, of course, the darker fabric you use, the better off that you're going to be, because it's not going to show through as much. If you are concerned about how it's showing through, there's two things that you can do. You can come over the top of it. Actually, there's a couple of things you can do now that I think about it. You can come over the top of it with either white acrylic paint, or you could probably, I haven't tried it, so I don't know how it's going to stick on there, but you could also probably come over the top of it with some whiteout. If you don't have either of those two things, or don't want to do those two things, you can use a thin piece of fabric or interfacing, and that will just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll kind of tone down the brand name that shows through. When I say the brand name that shows through, I'm talking about this. So that's another alternative. So just glue down basically a piece of white or something that's a neutral color, and then come over with the actual fabric that you want to use. Okay, folks, I think next week we'll go ahead and continue on this project, which there shouldn't be much left, but at this point I definitely need to get some books on the top of this and smush it down. All right, folks, hope to see you next week. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye.